Hey trumpet nerds! This time we're doing a feature of the Yamaha Mark Gould Signature Series mouthpiece. This video is sponsored by Vennture Mouthpieces. Before we dig in, let's quickly go through the specs of this mouthpiece. The rim is very similar in diameter and shape to a Yamaha 17B4 or a Bach 1¼ The cup is a very good copy of a 17B4, the throat is a roomy 24 or 0.153 inches, and the backbore is most like a Yamaha C backbore but has an extra flare in the lower half. Mark Gould, former principal trumpet in the Metropolitan Opera, has said his mouthpiece is basically a Yamaha 17B4, but we also know it comes with some helpful orchestral alterations. But before we dive in, the Yamaha 17B4 is a very similar mouthpiece to the Bach 1¼ so please keep this in mind while I'm comparing the Gould to the 17B4. The Yamaha website lists the Mark Gould as having an inner rim diameter of 17.3 millimeters or 0.681 inches, but we need to have a talk about rim sizes. I got a comment recently asking why I didn't mention the inner rim diameter measurement when describing the Hooten mouthpiece. And the reason is that I learned that the inner rim diameter is totally dependent on where you measure it on the curve of the mouthpiece. Looking at this model of the Gould, where would you guess the inner diameter measurement of 17.3 millimeters was taken? Here? No, here actually, which is different from where Bach measures it, which is different from where Marcinkiewicz measures it. Every mouthpiece company measures it a little different, and the diameter will be very different depending on where it's measured. This also severely complicates any comparison charts that use these kinds of measurements. This is why you won't see any more inner rim measurements on this channel, just comparisons to popular mouthpieces or representations in VenCAD. Back to business here. The Gould has basically the same inner diameter as the 17B4 in the VenCAD library, but I would say that the Gould has a slightly narrower rim width than the 17B4 and quite a bit narrower than the Hooten. However, the high point or tangent diameter of the Gould is microscopically further towards the outside of the rim than the 17B4 we have here, but again, not as far as the Hooten. Finally, the Gould is generally a bit rounder of a rim shape than the 17B4 and has a smoother bite or rim cup angle, which is measured in degrees. The 17B4 has a fairly typical bite of -31 degrees, while the Gould is smoother at -34 and the Hooten is even smoother than that at a -37. If you found the 17B4 a bit sharp and the Hooten a bit smooth, the Gould might be right in the sweet spot for you. Okay, let's take a close look at the Gould Cup compared to the 17B4. From a bird's eye view, they look very similar in terms of shape and volume, but if we get in close, we can see that for whatever reason, the Gould has basically the exact shape of the 17B4, but it looks slightly smaller, just inside the line. But would I say that the Gould is actually shallower than a 17B4? Probably not. I'd have to get more pieces scanned to be sure, but because everything looks so similar, I would remind you that we don't really know which vintage the 17B4 from Gould was, and we don't know how similar that 17B4 is to the one we have in VenCAD. But for today, I'm just gonna call it a draw and say that it's basically just like a 17B4. So this video is part of a series I'm doing on different signature mouthpieces, which are custom mouthpieces designed for big-time players. But have you ever wanted to create your own signature mouthpiece? Now you can with Vennture Mouthpieces. Using the software we've been using for this comparison, VenCAD, we can also make modifications and create new custom mouthpieces based on anything you can think of. Earlier this year, I sent my main mouthpiece to Vennture to get scanned and profiled, and we worked together through the process to create my custom signature mouthpiece, and I've been using it full-time ever since. While developing your design, Vennture will send you prototype parts of your designs in a custom fit kit so you can properly test the variations you came up with before deciding on a final mouthpiece. Make sure to check out their new lead mouthpiece kits to find the perfect high note mouthpiece for you. Use our coupon code PINKBABYMONSTER at checkout for 10% off any mouthpiece from Vennture, which also helps support my channel. Link in the description below. The throat size of the Gould is a 24 compared to the original 17B4's 27 or the Hooten's 25. The actual throat measurement of the Gould is 0.153 inches, which is slightly larger than other 24 throats I've measured, which can sometimes come in at 0.152 or even 0.151 inches. Something interesting is that the throat appears to be straight up drilled out without any change to the shape of the bottom of the cup or the top of the backbore, which noticeably extends the length of the throat. This can easily be seen here in VenCAD, where we find out that the throat length of the typical stock 17B4 is 0.043 inches, and the Hooten is about double at 0.105, and the Gould has an astounding throat length of even double that at 0.202 inches, 4 times the original throat length of the 17B4. The longer throat length probably creates more blowing resistance, which somewhat balances out the freedom offered by the 24 throat. So based on my comparisons, the Gould backbore is almost identical to the Tom Hooten backbore. The stock 17B4 has a Yamaha C backbore, and both the Gould and the Hooten have a backbore that is very similar to the C in the top half, with a little extra volume in the lower half. This means that the Gould backbore is between the sizes of a 10 and a 24 backbore, which probably makes it a more manageable and efficient orchestral backbore for the variety of roles the trumpet plays in the opera pit. The blank, or outside mouthpiece shape of the Gould mouthpiece is the standard Yamaha blank, which is similar to a Bach blank but missing a few flourishes. One time I measured my collection of Yamaha and Bach blank mouthpieces and found the Yamaha blanks to be very slightly heavier on average, by maybe a gram or two. Enough talking, let's hear this mouthpiece. Recommend the Yamaha Mark Gould Signature Series mouthpiece to players who are playing a Bach 1 1/4 C, a Yamaha 17B4, or even the Yamaha Hooten mouthpiece, and are looking for another strong orchestral option. And it's only $50, so it's very affordable to get hold of and experiment with for yourself. Thanks for joining me for another episode of John Talks Trumpet, and I'll see you on my next nerdy trumpet adventure.